Hello, this is Miguel Ramirez with Occupancy Advantage. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. Welcome to those of you who've used reps and other CRMs. We're excited to share with you where the market has turned. Allow me to introduce to you Mona Hilton, CEO of Genesis Global Technologies, the authors of Occupancy Advantage, the intelligent merger of marketing and technology. Mona, if you will.
Why, thank you very much, Miguel. Thank you for that kind introduction. And I want to thank you guys all for joining us here today. It is so good to see so many familiar faces or names and friends on the line today, and actually quite a few new people. So hopefully soon to be friends. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad you're here. We are recording today's session, so if you would like a copy of the recording afterwards, or if you'd like to share it with someone, just let us know. One thing that I am always disappointed about is the fact that this format really doesn't allow us to interact the way I like to do it. I love doing presentations in person and getting feedback and interacting and asking questions. So the best that we have is a little chat window. If you'll notice in your GoToWebinar box, there's a little chat window. So if you have questions along the way, if I ask you something, you'd like to give me some feedback, I'd love to hear it. Chat with me. I'll definitely try to address it live or get back with you afterwards. But again, thank you so much for coming. I do have to come clean with you, and I have to be honest with you, especially for those of you who know me. I was really, really reluctant to do this webinar on this topic. In fact, I have put it off for a long time, actually months, because I was hesitant to put out anything that even started to look like I was bashing anyone. I hate to do that. It's not my style. I don't like going there, and I really do try to live by the scripture, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So if you tuned in hoping to hear me bash reps or any other CRM for that matter, unfortunately you're in for a big disappointment, because I won't be doing that. However, I can't ignore all the questions and comments I've been told about people's frustration with using what I call old school CRMs. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was an email discussion I ended up on recently with people just like you, who expressed intense frustration with reps and a burning desire, almost a desperation, to find an alternative. That's when I knew I couldn't dodge the topic any longer. I really had to tackle the issue head on. And just for more confirmation, when we did send out this invitation, the response was overwhelming. I got lots of emails with people making comments and, oh, I'm so glad you're addressing this. And there was a really big response to the email invitation. So we had clearly hit a hot button. So here we are today, addressing the topic head on. However, I will promise you that there were no CRMs or reps hurt in the making of this presentation today. So you notice the title had the word dilemma in it. And the dilemma that we're referring to here is, should we or should we not? Should we stay with what we've always done, or should we go and take a risk and move to where we want to go? Now, you might have heard the story about the tourist who went to the zoo and saw a bear sitting on a log that had a nail on it. The bear just whined and whined while the visitor watched in disbelief. Finally, he went and found a zookeeper and asked, what is going on with the bear? The zookeeper explained that the bear had been sitting on this nail for a while. But I'll tell you the rest of the story later on, when I think it'll make a little more sense to you. That's my hook to keep you on. The good news is, I love this screen. I plan to show you how to make the lemonade out of the dilemma. But in the defense, honestly, of CRMs like reps and all the other ones, I think it's fair for us to take a little tour of history, a little history lesson. So there were several evolutions of system. The first evolution, in the beginning, as I like to say, was the Rolodex. and the Rolodex was without form and void. You all have Rolodexes. I love to ask this in person and find out how many people still have a Rolodex, and you'd be amazed at how many people have them. It was a great first evolution. It was basically a list of business cards that were organized alphabetically on this little Rolodex that went round and round, and you could look up someone's name, their phone number, their address. Back then, I don't think we had a whole lot of emails, but it was a great way to get organized. But just like this poor man with his head in his hands and his sticky notes covering his entire wall, you still needed sticky notes or notes of some sort to help you with your follow-up and to let you know what to do for follow-up. But that was the first evolution, and it was a great start. At the bottom, I have a little screenshot of an actual job posting posted on LinkedIn not too long ago. And you'll notice where my arrow is. It says, strong Rolodex a must. I just giggled when I saw that. I thought that was very amusing. Now, I'm assuming that they're speaking figuratively speaking. They don't really expect somebody to show up on their first day on the job and plop down this big Rolodex and go to work. But I thought you might enjoy looking at that. So that was the first evolution of systems, if you will. The second evolution is the mighty CRM. Now, you know CRMs as Client Relationship Managers. That's what CRM stands for. But we lovingly or affectionately refer to a CRM as a Client Relationship Maze. It's where contacts go in, but they never come out. Basically, the traditional CRM is just like an electronic Rolodex. So instead of putting it on a little wheel that you spin round and round, it goes into your CRM, and you can search on it. It's electronic. But unfortunately, just like a Rolodex, they don't do anything for you except for store your data. And you still need, as you can see, sticky notes all over your laptop telling you what to do and when to do it. So the CRM was a great first start as far as electronics, but it still had some of the same challenges of the Rolodex. Now, some people have complained that traditional CRM is kind of like putting the cart before the horse. In other words, the CRM is getting in front of the real driving force, which is sales and marketing process. And just like this horse, they're saying, hey, I'm sales, and I really need to be driving this cart. You're getting in my way, not really helping me. Well, a few months ago, I met with a marketing manager for a very large senior living company. And if I named the name of the company, you would all recognize it. It's a big name. Who was also using a very well-known CRM, and just to keep my promise, I won't mention the name publicly, and he said some of the things that you're looking at here. We have no tracks to run on. It's every man for himself. There's a lot of frustration and burnout and turnover in our company and in our industry. And when people leave, we hire new people, and we start all over again from the very beginning. The problem we're up against, he said, is that things are changing, but we're not keeping up with it. Well, since then, I started collecting some of the comments and the complaints and the frustrations, and I posted some of the common ones here for you to review. Do they sound familiar? You might even recognize one or more that you've told me. And if you see these and you find one that I've overlooked, please send it to me in the chat window. This is kind of an overview of a lot of the comments that we've heard, but here's some of them. Our current CRM can only track what happened. It can't make anything happen. It just tracks things after the fact. Each of our communities has a different, separate database that all work a little differently, and we can't roll anything up. We can't see on an enterprise or corporate level what's going on in all the communities. It's hard to use. It's cumbersome. It takes too long, and we hate it. I've heard that a lot. Our CRM is an island. We still need outside spreadsheets and services and tracking mechanisms, and of course, none of them talk to each other, so we're keeping all these manual things separately. Reports, that's the Achilles heel They're never right. They don't give you what you want. They're very hard to use. Our CRM doesn't take advantage of the tools of today, specifically the internet. It doesn't integrate with our website, our social media, our online marketing. And there are hundreds of CRMs, and one of the really common comments I've heard is that it's generic. It's not designed specifically for the senior living care needs that we have. And we all know our industry is unique, and the generic CRMs don't really address our needs specifically. Another complaint, a big one, support. It's a joke. It's practically non-existent. Another one is I've heard CRMs referred to as a big brother tool. Our people won't use it because it doesn't do anything for them, and they just view it as management trying to watch over them. It's individual-based. It's not role-based, so when someone leaves, there goes all their information, and we're starting all over with somebody new. And then my favorite one, they don't provide a track for us to run on for our marketing team. They don't prompt us for next steps. They don't help us in any way. So I've heard these things so many times over and over again that I've started saying, if I had a dime for every time I heard that, I would be a very wealthy woman right now. But honestly, in all fairness to CRMs, there's a lot that's changed in our industry in the last 10 or 20 years. The profile of our seniors and our target audience has changed. The way people communicate has changed drastically. The way people research and want to be sold has changed. The impact of the internet on our industry has been a game changer, truly. It's changed our lives and our businesses, and then, of course, the most recent curveball has been the economy and the major downturn that we've all felt. Now, while some of those changes are legitimate and real, what it hasn't changed is the need to keep our buildings full and keep our revenue steady. A wise man once said, nothing happens until a sale is made, and I quote that a lot. And that is why I love this cartoon. It asks the million-dollar question that we've all been asking for the last few years, which is, how do we do that one thing that makes profits go up? What we do know is that what we used to do isn't cutting it any longer. The old tools and the methods and the strategies can't help us in this new economy that we're in now, any more than a horse and buggy could compete with or perform like some of today's new, sleek, fast transportation. So what happens if we don't change? Well, perish the thought. It's not something I like to spend a lot of time on, but I've listed some of the common concerns or common possibilities here. I'm not going to go over them because I like to focus on the positive. But what that does do is it begs the question, what's the next generation and what's effective now for senior living sales and marketing? Or as I like to say, if you could wave a magic wand and make all of your CRM complaints disappear, make all of your sales and marketing challenges disappear, what would you want? Well, I'd like to tell you a story. On August 17th, 2010, I met with an executive at a very large senior living company about a totally different matter. During the course of getting to know one another, I told her that we had provided some sleek, automated sales and marketing systems to the developer and builder market for 10 years. So she started asking me what it did, and as I described it to her, her eyes got big as saucers. And she proceeded to tell me about her CRM, name withheld, that they absolutely hated. She said, we have no choice. We have to use it. It's the only thing really available to our industry. But if you could tailor your tool to the senior living market, it would be so welcome, so embraced, so needed. So we spent the next hour and a half outlining the challenges facing the senior living sales and marketing for years and developing a wish list of solutions. We solved the problems, and voila, your wishes, as they say, are granted. Now here are some of the things that we addressed that day. We took those challenges and turned them into solutions. We need, she told me, smart systems that help, not hinder our marketing efforts, that don't take up time, that actually help us. We need to be able to see all of our communities in one system and drill down to either one or view them all or compare. We need easy systems, easy to use, what we call PhD, which I'll explain to you in a moment. Things are so cumbersome, we need them to be easy. We need everything in one place. We need our prospects, we need our family members, we need our referral sources, all in one system. And then we need to be able to draw relationships between different types of contacts. So what referral sources brought us what prospects who are related to what family members. We need interactive, real-time, clickable reporting, something that's real-time. We need to see activity and productivity details at the click of a button at any time I want to see them. We need to do something outbound marketing, she said. We need to be able to do custom and personal email blasts or print campaigns, and we need online lead generation. We need to be able to get leads directly from our website, from our online marketing efforts, from our search engines, from all those different places. We need something that addresses the unique needs of senior living care. We need white glove live support. We need people who will actually answer the phone and help us, and who will be nice to us and treat us like we're important. I laugh because that seems so obvious, but that's a big need. We need something that's going to serve as the marketing team's assistant, not their big brother. We needed to provide value to our marketing team. We need something that's accessible from the web, from mobile, 24/7, from a laptop, from an iPad, from an iPhone, a mobile device, anywhere. And my favorite, set it and forget it, automated follow-up. Never miss another next step. We can't leave things up to people's memory. So out of that meeting came the list of features and tools and emphasis and changes that you see here, designed really to best help the senior living care and marketing efforts in this new economy that we're dealing with. Out of that meeting came Occupancy Advantage. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to share with you what I would say are the top 3 game changers that are new in the industry for senior living sales and marketing. Now, you just saw a very big list, but they all kind of boil down to 3 top breakthroughs that significantly change the game from now on. So let's start with a biggie. Have you ever felt like this woman looks some night when you wake up in the morning, in the middle of the night because you can't sleep? What keeps you up at night? What are the things that you worry about at night? And I'd love for you to put some things in the chat for me to either address now or to contact you back about. Well, there was a survey done recently, and 65% of managers cite, you ready? Follow-up as the #1 business failure. It wasn't patient care or PR or even customer satisfaction. It was follow-up. Are you surprised? What also might be shocking for you to know, if you haven't already heard it, is statistically 80%, 80, of all inquiries to a community never receive any type of follow-up. Wow, shocking. Especially when you factor in that the average cost per lead in our industry is $500. If 80% of them are not getting any type of follow-up, that will certainly keep you up at night. But you might say, you know, Mona, that's fine, but we do follow-up, and that's great. I'm so glad to hear it. But let's look at some of the statistics about people who do follow-up, and you might have seen some of these before, but it bears repeating. 25% of people who do follow-up make a second contact and then stop there. 12% make only 3 contacts and then stop there. But 10%, the best of the best, make more than 3 contacts. Okay, well, that's interesting. But to really get an idea for what it takes, we need to look at how much, or contrast that with how much follow-up does it take to get results. What needs to happen? So I'm glad you asked. Here you go. 2% of sales are made on the second contact. 5% of sales are made on the third contact. 10% of sales are made on the fourth contact. And a whopping 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. Now, if you overlay that with what we just saw, the best of them, 10%, stop here on the third contact, which is where 5% of sales are made. So by my calculations, and I don't claim to be a math whiz, that leaves about 93% of sales on the table that never see the light of day due to follow-up. Wow. Well, you've all heard the Colonel Sanders story. You know that he is the model of tenacity, perseverance, and follow-up. You've probably heard that he was rejected over 1,000 times before he became successful. And when he became successful, he was extremely successful. His chains have outlived him. But you know, you hear stories about Colonel Sanders, and he made it really look easy. But we know that follow-up is a lot easier said than done. In fact, there's an old saying that if you're looking for an excuse, any excuse will do. And there are a lot of very legitimate barriers to follow-up that I've shared some of them here for you. I have forgotten to follow up. I don't have time to follow up. I can't keep track of all my follow-up. I don't know what to do with prospects that I don't really want to work with right now. It's hard to track what prospects are hot, and I should be following up with them first. I don't know where my prospects are left off in the process. There's really no accountability. You know, ultimately, I don't know what happened with our leads. I don't know what to say or do next. I don't know what I should do with them next. Our CRM, which we love to blame, doesn't have any valuable or actionable data. I don't have a system that keeps me in front of my prospects so they remember me. And my favorite, I don't want to appear too pushy. So those, like I said, are very legitimate barriers to follow-up. But given that follow-up is the #1 business failure, if we're honest, I think we can all relate, because when you leave follow-up to sticky notes or a person's memory or Outlook tasks or a task in your CRM, an individual task, it really becomes a hit-or-miss proposition at best. And if you think that I snuck into your office one night and took a picture of your laptop with the sticky notes on it, you're not the first person who's accused me of that. But you know what? Before you beat up on the folks who are responsible for doing follow-up, let's consider realistically the challenges they face. What does their day look like? They get an inquiry. They have the best of intentions of following up with that lead. Perhaps they create themselves a note or an Outlook task or a task in their CRM or whatever they do. But then someone walks through the door. The phone rings. They get an email from their boss asking for a report. And before you know it, the time has slipped by, and now there are several inquiries that have piled up that need to be followed up with. And then the days have gone by, and the pile has become bigger and more unmanageable. And before you know it, they don't remember who, what, where, when, and then they experience, yep, you got it, what I call an oh shoot moment, where they wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh shoot, was I supposed to call Jane Doe? And did I promise her something before the end of the day yesterday, and I've forgotten what it is, and I'm embarrassed, and, well, that creates a very awkward situation. So what's the answer? Well, before I get to the answer, let's talk about some tips for following up. Now, I have Googled sales follow-up, and everyone recognizes there's a problem. Everyone says you have to do it to be successful, but what amazed me is that nobody tells you how to do follow-up. So I've put together some tips for you. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail on this session. However, we did an entire session on stop the #1 leak in your sales process, where we go into great detail about follow-up tips and examples. And if you're interested in getting a copy of that recording, just chat to me and I'll make sure that you get it. So I'm just going to read through these real quick. Your follow-up should be appropriate. It should be consistent, and it should be quick. Your follow-up should have a reason for reaching out to them and a goal or objective or call to action or next step. Your follow-up should be personal, not canned stuff. It should be standardized. It should be automated. And your follow-up should be pre-planned. Now, sounds like a lot of common sense and pretty simple, right? But honestly, we know they're a lot easier said than done. So again, is there a secret to great, effective, consistent, bulletproof follow-up, if you will? And if so, what is it? Well, if you've heard me before, you know that I love to borrow ideas and concepts from other industries. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever been out of town or out of the country and stopped at McDonald's? You know why McDonald's is such a successful chain? Yep, you got it. It's their fries. Their fries. They taste the same here as they do in Minnesota or California or Hawaii. Well, how does McDonald's do that? Well, they've created a successful French fry and a replicatable, reproducible process that ensures that no matter where you go, no matter who cooks them, no matter what language that person speaks, the fries are always the same, they're always uniform, you're always going to get consistent, hot French fries from McDonald's to McDonald's because they've automated the system and they've taken all of the guesswork out of the process. That's the reason why franchise success rates are so high. Now, if we bring that back to our industry, shouldn't every experience at your community or with your senior agency be the same memorable, warm, white glove experience regardless of who's involved in it, regardless of who greets the prospect, regardless of who gives the tour and who does the follow-up? Well, we have a mantra. You can't duplicate your success unless you can replicate your process. So does anybody remember the old Ronco commercials? They had a machine. You could put a whole turkey in it, press a few buttons, and they would chant, set it and forget it. You remember that? Since then, they have put out a Veggie-Matic, and now they have this Slice-O-Matic. You can actually buy this at Target. But they still use the set it and forget it concept. Well, we love that idea. We said, what if we could apply that same principle to our follow-up processes? What if you could create entire follow-up processes based on your best practices for your geographic area, for all different types of scenarios or leads or referrals or walk-ins or A or B or C leads? We thought that was a great idea. So we built it. We called it the Task-O-Matic. And yes, I know, it's a cheesy play on words on the set it and forget it concept, but I promise you'll never forget it. What a Task-O-Matic does is it allows you to pre-build, pre-set up your entire follow-up sequences of activities, tasks, actions based on your best practices. So what you're looking at here is an example, an illustration. Let's just say, for the sake of illustration, that this is an A prospect Task-O-Matic. So all of our A prospects, we have sat down ahead of time and said, here's how we want our A prospects to be followed up with, regardless of whether they are assigned to a top performer who's been around for 10 years and they know how to do this in their sleep, or whether it's a new person who just started last week and they're just kind of getting their bearings. So again, we sat down, we said, okay, here we go. On day one, we want Jane Doe to send out a handwritten thank you note. And we could even put the words in there for what we want her to write, generally speaking. On day 3, we want the salesperson, the account manager, the marketing person who is assigned to that prospect to make a thank you call. And during that thank you call, we want them to do a little bit of discovery and ask some discovery guide questions. What prompted your call today? What's most important to you? How does all this make you feel? Anything that you would like to find out during that call. Then on day 5, we want the sales manager to send out a packet of information about our community or our agency. Then on day 7, we want to send out a value proposition email from the marketing person that's actually pre-written. It's a template already pre-written about what a great bargain it is to live here versus having to pay your own electricity and buy your own services and all that stuff independently. Day 10 is a call with questions that might also tie to a discovery guide or more questions. Day 15 might be a testimonial and reference letter. That again is a template. Now if you tuned in early and you saw some of the teaser statistics, you know that references from friends and family trumps every other marketing source point. So anytime you can use references and testimonials on your website or in your follow-up, that's really important. Okay, I don't want to get off on a tangent. So then on day 25, we've got a call, and you get the idea. These are all pre-built. They're all pre-designed, pre-written, and assigned to different people in the organization. So the way it works is when you encounter an A prospect in this illustration, you put them on an A prospect task-o-matic in our world, and the system, or again, in our world, Occupancy Advantage takes over from there. On the right day and the right time, it puts the right action, the right activity, the right task in the right person's inbox. But it goes beyond just being a reminder system. Say on day 3, when you're supposed to make that call, whoever that's assigned to, when they go to make the call, the discovery guide form will pop up for them to look at the questions and fill it out as they go along. Or if they walk through the door, they can fill it out there as well. So when they complete that call and they fill out the discovery guide, they hit complete, and then the system fires the next action on the next day and time for whoever it's assigned to. But on, like, for example, day 7, that email, the automated email, is a value proposition. It'll pop up for whoever it's assigned to with the selection to personalize it. So it pre-merges their information and the template, but it gives you a chance to personalize it so it's not canned. You can talk about the weather, you can talk about their dog Mimi that's so important to them, or anything else that you can reference that makes the email personalized. Then when you complete that action, it fires the next action on the next day and time for whoever it's assigned to. If, like on day 15, that is a letter, again, it'll pre-merge it, it'll populate it and get it all ready for you, and all you have to do is hit personalize, make it personal, and then hit complete. If it's an email, it'll merge it and send it out. If it's a letter, it'll merge it and print it, and then fire the next action on their task-o-matic on the next day and time. So you can see that when you use something like a task-o-matic, what you're doing is you're creating standardized processes, basically tracks to run on based on your best practices, similar to the whole franchise concept. No one can ever fall through the cracks because the system prompts you through it, even tells you what your next step is and what you need to do. This gives your top performers and your newbies really a level playing field, because regardless of whether those leads came in from your website or from a referral source, they end up on the appropriate track that you've created to engage them, to nurture the relationship with them, and to move them into a move-in. Pretty cool, huh? Now, these task-o-matics can be customized along the way as your relationship develops or changes with that prospect, but they can never fall through the cracks again. Think about that. How many more prospects and family members or referral sources could you manage really effortlessly? And at the same time, if all your systems were all predefined for you, were set up for you, even pre-written for you, and maybe even done for you, like the emails and letters, set it and forget it sell, it'd be impossible for anyone to fall through the cracks. Now, what we know is that whether they call in or they're referred to you or they come from your website or walk in the door, fresh leads are precious and very expensive. And your follow-up is the single most important key to turning those leads into buyers. This is how Task-O-Matics allow you to have the same advantages that a franchise does. The system is all created for you. Now, this screen shows you how Task-O-Matics look to your sales team when they log in. They're all laid out for them, and they're all date and time stamped. So your sales team doesn't have to figure out what to do or what to say or what to write or if it's grammatically correct or spell checked. All they can need to do is breeze through a lot of follow-up in just a few seconds. They just have to push buttons, make calls, and develop the relationships. So this is one example how technology serves as your assistant, not your master. Because by automating your systems, that frees you up to focus on the high-value activities, like building the relationships that generate revenue. And then let your technology take care of all the reminder and the automated things for you. Another great benefit is that these Task-O-Matics eliminate lost prospects who fall through the crack whenever you have employee turnover. Because when people leave, inevitably their relationships, their processes, their opportunities that were in the works, they tend to get lost unless you have some way of picking up where they left off. So that's our first top 3 game changer in the industry. Set it and forget it, follow up. So let's talk about the second of the top 3 game changer. Any idea what it is? Well, it's the Internet. We know that the Internet is a very fast-growing component of our business. It's not going away. It's not a fad like some people have suggested. In fact, we know that right now today, 87% of people who contact you will have checked you out online first. That number is up from 79% about 2 years ago. Well, that's great news for your website and your social media efforts and all the work you're putting into them. But the flip side of that is it also means that if they are checking you out online, they're most likely checking out your competition at the same time. So your ability to interest them, to engage with them, and to develop a relationship with them quickly is critical to your success. In fact, there's a very recent study that shows that if you contact your web leads within 5 minutes of them reaching out to you, you're 100 times, not 100%, 100 times more likely to reach them, to engage them, and to sell to them than if you wait just 30 minutes. So most people's strategy is to send a web lead by email to someone with the expectation that they're going to follow up in an hour. And, you know, that's just not going to cut it any longer. But it makes a lot of sense because they're sitting in front of the computer. They remember who they reached out to. They remember what they reached out about, and it's still important to them. And frankly, your competition isn't reaching out to them. So that really puts you ahead of the game. Well, one Internet technology that we had developed to address that is a concept that we call sticky points. Now, if you've never heard me talk about sticky points before, let me just share the concept with you. Sticky points are just like sticky notes, but for people. They're simple, they're interesting, they're intriguing, they're attractive places for people to stick and exchange a piece of information about them, ideally their name, their phone number, their email, what have you, so you can send them whatever you promise them, and maybe a place for them to tell you what they're interested in exchange for a piece of information or a tidbit or an article or a video or something interesting from you. Now, these sticky points could be as simple as the Contact Us page, or they can be more elaborate, like a video download, an article, a recipe. Pretty much your imagination is the only limit. And here are some of the examples that we've done before. What I like about some of these, especially the articles, is they can provide you more information. Let me explain what I mean by that. If someone downloads an article on how to talk to your aging parents about assisted living options, you can pretty much be certain that they are the child of an aging parent. By contrast, if they download an article on 7 signs your patient needs assistance at home, they're most likely a potential referral source. So that allows you to kind of qualify or categorize these leads as they're coming into your system. So here are some examples. This is a radio ad that one of our clients was doing that sends them to a sticky point, and some other little examples, including a little mini form that you can just float on your website. So what happens when they hit submit? Well, here's a little diagram that shows you that if you can read it. That inquiry or that lead now goes into your system and it starts the process of follow-up. So at the top level you can see they fill out the Contact Us page. It goes directly into Occupancy Advantage in our world. So there's no danger of misspellings or manual entry errors or any of those kinds of things. And then that's assigned to a consultant or a marketing person. That consultant is notified immediately. And before they can even start the process of following up, that lead is launched on an automated follow-up task-o-matic that instantaneously starts the process of following up with them. And you can kind of see some examples there. And the source that they came in from, in this case the Contact Us page, is credited for that lead. So now we know our cost per lead, even our cost per sale for the different marketing activities. And all of this happens as soon as they click submit. Pretty cool, huh? Well, these are examples of how sticky points might work on your website. But sticky points can also be stuck, if you will, on your social media. Now here's an example of a LinkedIn discussion group, and here's an example of an article that I posted on there. When they click on this link, it takes them to a sticky point where I capture a bit of information about that, not a whole lot, just a little bit of information. And as they click on it, it automatically sends them the article that I gave them, puts them into our system, and again starts that whole process that I just showed you, from the lead going in, to the right person being notified, to the follow-up task-o-matic, to even crediting that source code. So that's how, and that can work LinkedIn, Facebook, any of those, any place you want to stick a sticky point. But a sticky point can also feed backwards from an email campaign. Now we call those smart response pages or SRPs. And let me kind of explain to you how that works. So you can do an email campaign, and it's merged. You can see the contact's name throughout the body. Provide some sort of incentive for them to click through to get more information. You can see where it says log on here. When they click through, it takes them to a sticky point. However, it already knows who they are. So in this case, it says, welcome, Paul. And all the information about Paul is right there. So there's a big wow factor that, wow, look what these people already know about me. This is not a cold lead. They already know me. And it makes it very easy for them to reply. So in this case, instead of Paul having to sit down, hit reply, think of something polite to tell you, and then tell you what he really wants, all he's got to do is answer whatever questions you would like to ask him and hit submit. Again, at the second he hits submit, it goes into the system. It updates his record with the information. It notifies his account executive. It credits that source code, and it could even launch him on a follow-up task-o-matic, all at the second he hits submit. Pretty cool, huh? Well, I can almost hear you now. You're probably going, you know, Mona, that's great if I had email addresses. But we haven't been keeping email addresses, and all we've got are postal addresses. What can we do, if anything? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Let me show you. Here is a postcard, and this is just an illustration, just an example to show you the concept. This is the front of the postcard. The back of the postcard is custom imprinted. They sometimes call that variable data imprinting, or crash imprinting is what I call it. So each person gets a personal postcard, in this case Todd. There's an offer. Go to this website, put in this promo code, and you'll get whatever it is that you'd like to offer them. Now when Todd goes to that website, it looks just like the postcard he got in the mail, so there's a strong connection. You can see down on the bottom left, there's a place for him to enter his promo code. He puts in his number, and voila. The system now knows who he is, and it says, welcome, Todd. Whatever you want to say, there's the information you know about Todd. All he's got to do now is give you his email address. He gets whatever you promised him. And now, in addition to everything else, you have his email address for future communications. I'll tell you, this works very well. We've done it several times, and it's a very effective way. Now, the caveat here is that you have to give them something in exchange for them going to that website and giving you their email address. So think about all the options that these open up for you now. You can do things like what we call revival campaigns. Revival campaigns are really just designed to re-engage or excite your dormant prospects, your referral sources, your clients, your patients, anyone, and get some more information about them. And here's just some more visual examples of some of the different sticky points or SRPs that you can put out there. The concept is they can look like anything you want, you can offer anything you want, and you can ask for anything you want. It's just the concept that works. So the second top 3 game changer that I wanted to share with you today is leveraging the internet through attractive sticky points. And by attractive, I mean instead of chasing people down, you're allowing them to communicate back with you on their terms, the way they want to do it. It could be at midnight. It could be after hours when they can't take a phone call or they couldn't take it during business hours. This is really cool. But more important than cool is it's effective. It's very powerful, and it really works. I've got proof. Well, the third game changer is the one that everyone has yelled about the loudest. You've heard the saying, it's so easy, even a caveman can use it. Well, we're not going to insult the caveman. We actually prefer to think of it as designing systems for PhDs. Now, PhD is our little inside joke. It stands for Push Here Dear. And what it means is that everything we've done and do is designed to be easy to use, to be clickable, to be interactive, to be intuitive, so it thinks like a human, not a spreadsheet or a database, or no insult intended, even a caveman. So here's some examples I want to show you. Contact searching. Everything in our system that is blue is a hyperlink. It's clickable. So anything blue will take you to something else. Contact searching is simple. It's intuitive. You just start typing, and it finds whatever you're looking for. You click on the address, and it pulls up a Google map for you that you could do your directions from in real time. Email and print campaigns, extremely powerful, whether you're doing it to 10 or 10,000 people. It all merges them. They're all personalized. The set it and forget it follow-up, you've already seen a similar screen. It lays everything out for you so you can never forget. You might be wondering why some of these tasks are red. That's because they're past due. So things don't disappear. They stay there until they're dealt with. The discovery guides are just places for you to document information as you're talking to people. Document them as part of your discovery process. Your census tracking is a place for you to marry a prospect with a bed or a room, and even select activities of daily living or packages or what have you that you offer, and merge and generate your agreements for you on the fly. Mobile access. Mobile is a big deal. Everyone wants to be able to access things from their iPhone, from their iPad, from their laptop. It's all available. Activity points. if you want to track your activities and how many points they get for doing different kinds of things. Of course, the interactive clickable reporting. Again, remember that anything blue is clickable, which means you can drill down to it. And if you'll notice kind of down in the bottom left where it says the numbers are even clickable. So you can see Carol Bartlett has 50 existing leads. You want to see the detail? Click on the 50. It'll pull them all up and you can drill down and see direct detail. Again, here are some other screens just to show you other things that are clickable and how they work. This systemization that I talk about a lot is what I call the Slinky marketing process. And I love Slinkies. In fact, I have one on my desk. If you'd like to have a Slinky, send me a chat and I'll be happy to send you a Slinky. They're pretty cool. I love Slinkies because they're very simple, but they're really an ingenious design. All a Slinky is loop after loop after loop connected end to end. I tell everyone, your marketing, your communication, your follow-up, your processes should work just like a Slinky. Now, if you look up here at the top, your marketing, you get a lead, whether it's online or offline or calls or referrals. They go into your system. They're assigned to someone. They're categorized. They're then put on a follow-up task-o-matic, set it and forget it follow-up. And then you follow up until they move in or they sign. Or you repeat that communication or follow-up process over and over again. The shampoo people call it shampoo, rinse, and repeat. I like to say you follow up over and over again until they buy, cry, or get a restraining order, whichever comes first. I never said I was politically correct, but I just think that's hilarious. So what you want to do is support that marketing process and enforce it. Everything you can do to enforce that marketing Slinky is going to increase your occupancy, and it's going to increase your sales revenue. So the third game changer in this new economy is ease of use, friendly, interactivity, clickability, or what we call PhD. So if we go back to our magic wand question, we understood that what you were actually wishing for was an assistant. You wanted an assistant that was designed specifically for senior living care and marketing. You wanted an assistant that was driven by the sales process, for the sales process, and actually, here you go, helped the sales process instead of hindering it. You wanted set it and forget it follow-up so you wouldn't have to remember all the details and keep them all straight and loose sticky notes. You wanted something that was easy to use and helpful for the people who actually had to use it. And you wanted to be able to leverage the internet, your website, your social media. I often say you basically want tracks to run on so you know what you're doing regardless of who's doing it. And that's what Occupancy Advantage really is designed to do. So now, the real dilemma is what to do. Do you stay with what you've always done, or do you go where you want to go? Do you take the leap and step out in faith and go where you need to go to be successful nowadays? You know, let's face it, sometimes we hang on to things or to people or even mindsets that are not good for us because they're comfortable. Or, you know, maybe it's because the devil that is known is better than the devil that is not known. Or maybe we don't want to stick our neck out and take a risk. Or maybe the pain of change is too great. So that brings me back to my bear story. Let me finish that story. Years ago, I heard the story of the bear in the zoo that was sitting on a log in his pen just howling in misery. The visitor came to the zoo and witnessed the scene for a while and finally approached the zookeeper and said, "Hey, why is the bear howling?" The zookeeper replied that the bear was sitting on a nail. "Well, why doesn't he get off the nail?" asked the visitor. The zookeeper replied, "I guess it just doesn't hurt enough." Well, we're not so unlike the bear when it comes to change. Until that nail that we're sitting on becomes more painful than the discomfort of making a change, We might just complain, but we might not take the effort or be willing to take the risk to make a change. Unfortunately, the danger is sometimes we don't know the hidden damage that that nail is causing until it's too late. Now, ideally, of course, the solution is to turn your dilemma into lemonade. So what are some of the dilemmas that you're facing, or the lemons? Are they similar to some of the things that we discussed here today, the ones that I shared with you? Do these issues resonate with your experience and some of the things that maybe you've said? You know, as I said earlier, it's unfortunate that this format really doesn't lend itself to interaction or conversations, and we really can't talk to each other, and I do apologize for that. I really would love to talk to you right now, and I'm so interested in just learning or hearing your story. You know, perhaps I can help, you know, maybe I can't help, but what I'd like to do is reach out to you shortly to connect. But if you're in a hurry or you have a pressing question or you want to know something, again, drop me a line in that chat box, and I'll be sure and call you first. Also, if you'd like to see more about what Occupancy Advantage does, and you can see on the screen some of the different components of it, I would love to give you a live tour with yours truly. That would be me. Also, if you'd like a recording of another event that we've already done, or if you'd like me to address a specific issue for a future event, just let me know the topic, and I'll do my very best to accommodate you. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate you staying on the line and taking time out of your busy day to attend, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.